This is Michigan's retirement coach, Mike Douglas.
So it's back to school season, and we're going to do some schooling here today. We're going to start with geography class, then we're going to move on to economics and finance class. That's what we're going to do in this next half hour, okay? And you've got 4 kids, so you're well in the throes of the back to school energy that's happening right now.
We are versed. Yeah. It's a little different for homeschool family, but it's still really about getting back into the routine.
I was about to say
that's
the routine.
Always the hardest part.
And all the sports that are picking back up and everything, that's all. It's just that schedule, that fall hustle that's starting to hit for everybody. Mm-hmm. But for you listening, if you are closer to retirement, hopefully the stress that is younger kids around the house is not so prominent for you. You're starting to enjoy the fall a little bit more. It's a little bit of an easier time. Still, here in Michigan, fall, of course, means winter. Winter is coming. Did you ever watch Game of Thrones? Winter is coming. And snowbirding is a real thing for residents here in Grand Rapids, Mike. And I know that you work with a lot of folks that do all kinds of snowbirding to different states in the South. Florida, obviously, a top-of-mind state for folks. And if you have a dream that includes a home in Florida for your retirement, this year may be the year to act, because this fall, voters are deciding on a new property tax relief bill for primary residences. And that could potentially start as soon as next year. Florida already has no state income tax. And it's obviously a draw for retirees for many different reasons. For folks that you have worked with, Mike, helping them figure out the snowbirding life, the advantages and disadvantages, and where to live in general, whether it's Florida or Tennessee or another state. How much does tax strategy really move the needle in those conversations?
It's becoming more and more prevalent.
Okay.
Right? For a long time, it was like, all right, get my income or help me with my investments, and then we'll kind of deal with taxes as they come. But now tax planning, especially because you kind of see this like the result of the market doing so well for the past 15 years, 16 years almost, right? When you have such a swell in the market, there's a much higher amount of pre-tax savings people have than ever. And so now they're looking at, what is that tax bill when that thing comes out? How much do I have to pay? And now it's front of mind for us. It's the lead topic for most of our conversations. It's let's deal with taxes, because if we can save money on taxes, we can lower our risk profile. We can increase our income. It really affects everywhere around your portfolio. So I think it's a big thing. This property tax change is interesting because there's already so many people who kind of say like, should I live in Florida? Should I just do 3 months in Florida? I want to be down there. And then when you say, well, the income tax, right? Well, in Michigan, we got rid of the income tax with the Public Act 4 of 2023 that just went fully into effect this year. So if you're below certain levels of income, you don't pay income tax on IRA distributions or your pensions. That's great. It's a great help for retirees, and to know that is a good thing. However, the property tax thing, when you pay your tax bill, Kimberly and I talk about this all the time. She says, let me get this clear. You pay off your mortgage and you still have to pay for your house. It's like, that's right. Property taxes. You never own your land. That's a big one. I think people are seeing that more and more as an opportunity. But again, don't move somewhere because of the taxes, but don't ignore the taxes when deciding where to move.
Okay.
Right?
That's
We're not
fair.
going to let the tail wag the dog.
Yeah.
I'm not moving to Florida over saving $12,000 a year. If my grandkids are here, if my family's here, if all these things. I worked with a client recently. They came through, and as we're talking, it was Tim and Tracy. They live in Cascade. And as we're working through plans for them, they had talked about, let's retire to Florida and let's build that plan. Initially, they were really focused on the obvious savings. Hey, Michigan income tax. And that sounds good. But now that Michigan income tax thing is changing a little bit. And when we actually ran the numbers, we looked beyond income taxes. We factored in property taxes and homeowners insurance and healthcare and housing costs and what they'd be giving up by moving away from their kids and grandkids. Because that's a piece. My family's here. Do I really want to move away? Now, ultimately, Tim and Tracy did decide to move to Florida, but for the winter. They went just long enough to call it their home. So they did the whole 183-day rule. I'm there more than half the year. That's my home. So they extended their snowbirding. They're still back up here in the summer times, but they want to make sure their lifestyle was what they wanted and their taxes were minimized. A lot of times we have plans in life. So I've shared quite a bit that I'm from a military family. My dad was in the military. So even though my cousins on both sides are in Delaware and Maryland, we moved to Indiana, then to Michigan. My parents' plan my whole life was, once my dad retired and once the kids got out of high school, they were going to move back to like Maryland or Virginia or somewhere on the East Coast to be closer to all their family. Well, that was the plan our whole life. And then we graduate high school. My little brother is 6 years younger than me. So by the time he graduated high school, I was getting married. Actually, I think I was married or right around there. I think he graduated and then like the next year I got married.
Okay.
So then the following year, my sister got married. And then a year after that, I had the first grandchild in the family. And then my sister had a grandchild. So like we start creating a real family unit here that this military family had never have. So I asked them a few years after that, I said, hey, are you guys still talking about moving to Virginia? And they laughed at me. They're like, no, there's no way. Like, I'm not moving back to somewhere that we haven't lived in almost, 30 years.
Right.
When my grandkids are here.
Right.
We have this new life here. So now they take their trips to go back and see their family out there. But things change. Now, taxes matter because at the end of the day, like I said, they affect your income, they affect your investments. But just like Tim and Tracy, who decided, hey, here's the right blend for us. We're going to be slightly more than half a year, live in Florida, get the tax benefits, and be up here all summer long. And for them, they like it because when kids are out of school. However, they miss some sports. There's a trade-off for that, right? They miss some of their grandkids' sports. For my family who said, no, we'll stay here no matter what because this is where we are. Whatever it is, we just want to understand the tax rules and play to win the game. We want to know what the plans are. How much do my taxes actually move the needle in my retirement? That's a question to think about. Potentially, it can be quite a bit, especially over 20 or 30 years. And if this conversation, you say, gosh, I've never talked about it this way. I've always been told the numbers of it, but never the family or the real life side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to work through this in a real life conversation. Give us a call, 616-512-2127, or reach out to us at michigansretirementcoach.com and click on the Start Your Retirement Roadmap button. When you hit that button, it schedules a time for you and I to talk on the phone. Or if you call the number, we'll schedule a time for you and I to talk and have a real life conversation. Because sometimes people ask about the numbers and I'm going to ask about your life and your family and like make sure that they work together.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you call your big box firm, they're going to say, here's the rate of return you need to live on this much money. And here's the tax numbers. And that's the end of it because the person on the 800 number doesn't know about your family. But we'll have these conversations. So if that's what you want, give us a call, 616-512-2127.
Reminder also, you can text that number. You can call or send a text to that number and start the conversation that way as well. 616-512-2127. Sorry, please continue.
That's perfect. So a lot of times we look at taxes in these 1 year silos, right? Like I live my life and I'm like, I don't want to pay anything extra in taxes in the spring. So I'm going to only do this, or I'm going to make my decisions that way. What we do at Life Plan is we actually look at your taxes in 20 and 30 year spurts. How much are you scheduled to pay over the rest of your life? And then when you pass, how is your money taxed? So when you look at it that way, there is a significant amount of savings almost every family can have with a good tax plan. Not an investment plan, not an income plan, but a tax plan. I am going to choose to pay taxes with my family when it makes more sense for my family than it does for the government. We see these all the time when people come in, we look at their portfolio. I just had someone I talked to the other day. They have about $800,000 in pre-tax IRAs. We ran a tax plan for them and said, you're scheduled to pay $700,000 in taxes over your life. And they said, that's crazy. That's a crazy. I said, it is a crazy number.
Yeah.
On 800,000 because it was pre-tax.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we went through, we built a strategy. We showed them what we do, and we're going to be able to get that number down to about $325,000.
Wow.
Again, still a lot of money. 325 is a lot. Now it's over the next 25 years. So it's not a crazy number per year, but it's still a lot better than $800,000 over that exact same time frame.
Yeah.
So working through these things, you have to look at what the total cost of where I live and how life works. What are my state income taxes? What are the property taxes? What's my homeowner's insurance look like? What is the cost of healthcare and the availability of healthcare near where I want to live? What are my housing and everyday living expenses? We always joke, but you can be rich in one area and poor in another. You know, when we would watch these shows on HGTV, the one we like is the one out of Mississippi, Laurel, Mississippi. Yeah. Hometown. Is it Hometown?
Yeah.
Yeah. Aaron and Ben Napier. And as we watch it, we see the price these houses go for. And it's like, this house is, almost 5,000 square feet on 3 acres and it's $320,000.
If that.
Like,
Yeah, it's right. We're
about?
rich in Mississippi.
We are rich in Mississippi, right? And then they buy it, they put $100,000 into it.
And it's
then
like
for $500,000 or $400,000, they've got $1 million house.
bougie. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, we're rich in Mississippi. We're rich in Waco, Texas, where Chip and Joanna Gaines are, right? Then you watch the shows in Toronto, and I go, I'm poor in Toronto. I can't buy an apartment with no land for $2.2 million. So it's just a real understanding of where you want to live. Where's your family? What does life look like? Now, again, for us being a military family, living close to family means a lot because I didn't. I grew up way away from my cousins and grandparents. So we made sure that Kimberly and I, we want to be close to my parents and her parents. And thank God they live about 22 minutes apart. So as long as we're in this general area, we're close to both of them. But when you're doing taxes and income planning for retirement, if you save $5,000 in one area, but yet it doesn't help much if you spend an additional $8,000 somewhere else, right? So maybe your property taxes are lower here, but yet the sales taxes are higher there. Like people look at Tennessee as another one, no state income tax. Great. Well, their sales tax is a little higher than ours. And then depending on where you live in Tennessee determines how your property is taxed. All things that need to be factored in. In Michigan, we're very blessed that, again, they just passed this law a couple of years ago. And so now if you're a married couple with income under about $133,000, you don't pay income tax on your IRA distributions. That's great. Now, if you choose to have a cottage up north or whatever, you need to figure the taxes in and how that works. They're also starting to eliminate the ability to rent out your cottage, on VRBO or Airbnb.
Oh, really? Interesting.
They're starting to shut that down in some of the northern cities in Michigan because I understand they're trying to preserve
the integrity,
the beauty of the nature, and the quiet and the ability to go to lake and chill.
Yeah.
But also don't tell me what to do with my cottage, right? Like, so
right.
At the end of the day, you want to be in the right optimal place. The financially optimal place isn't necessarily the place where you'll have the best retirement. Taxes absolutely matter, but they're one piece of the puzzle. Don't let the tax tail wag the retirement dog. But what I would say is we're going to use the tax leash to pull the dog in the right direction. At the end of the day, life is more than money. And where you spend the next 20 to 30 years is too important a decision to make based on a tax return alone. It's also too important a decision to avoid taxes. Well, again, when you call the big box firms, they will not talk through this stuff. They're going to plug in a state tax rate and a financial planning program and spit out some numbers. The real life conversations happen with local advisors who do real life together. So if you want to have a real conversation about your retirement, where should I go? Should I stay? And if you say, I'm not moving anywhere, but I do not want to overpay in taxes, that's okay too. You're in the right thought process. We will help you map out a tax plan for the rest of your life. 616-512-2127 or reach out to us at michigansretirementcoach.com.
You can call or send a text to that number to schedule a time on Mike's calendar and start the conversation about your own retirement tax plan and review. Let's begin the conversation. 616-512-2127. You can call right now or send a text to that number. Just text the word plan and we will text you back a link to the calendar so that you can schedule a time to begin the conversation with Mike right there from your phone. 616-512-2127 is that number to dial. 616-512-2127. All right, wrapping up on retirement geography. Now moving on to retirement economics class. Moody's Analytics. This is an interesting story, Mike. They've been tracking the economy for more than 80 years, and they say that when a certain number in their model hits 50%, a recession follows. It has never been wrong in the 80 years that they have been doing this analysis. Recently, Moody's Analytics moved that number, those odds moved up to 49%, which means we're right on the cusp of this recession. Now, I did some research on this, some Googling. This came out this past spring, this information, but apparently it hasn't changed. And actually, it came out before the war in Iran broke out. Now here we are, and all the oil prices and everything actually are kind of fueling this fire, this concern. So for somebody who is retiring soon or has just retired, it raises the issue of sequence of returns risk. What do we need to know? What do we need to be thinking about?
So sequence of return risk, it's a financial principle, but it basically says when you retire matters. So I had a client, he retired in 1999. Bob and Nancy, he worked for Ford, great guy, had done a really good job saving, very smart man. Retires in 1999. And think about where the market had been for the last 20 years. Outside of like 1987, you could basically throw a dart at a dartboard and make 12% every day, all day in the stock market. He retires in 1999, and then 2000, 2001, 2002, 3 straight years, the market lost money. 2000, the market dropped 20%. 2001, it drops 13%. 2002, it drops 23%. So he's 3 years into retirement, and the market's down 43%. He did nothing wrong, but he retired at the wrong time. Now, fast forward. Let's say that you get through the financial crisis of 2007, 8, and 9, right? In 2009, you say, you know what? I think I can retire still. It's okay. I survived the crash. I'm good to go. So you retire March 2nd of 2009. March 2nd of 2009 was the bottom, the absolute bottom of the financial crisis. From there, the market has gone crazy for now 17 years, outside of a couple of hiccups. So if you retire then, every year, even though you take money out of the account, your portfolio jumps. So for Bob, all he planned on, they had about $1.8 million. He had only planned on pulling out about $50,000 a year. That's not that much money on $1.8 million. So he plans on $50,000. Well, for 3 straight years, the market goes down and his portfolio goes from 1.8 down to about 1.1 million. However, he's still pulling out $50,000. Then it starts to recover for a few years. And then here comes the great financial crisis, 2007, 8, and 9. He started out retirement with 1.8 million. And by the end of the crash in 09, he's sitting at about $600,000. And he's only 8 years into retirement, 9 years into retirement. That's a terrifying feeling. If you retire in the right time, because we know the market's cyclical. It happens to work. It has bad years and has good years. If you choose the right time, then you win the little like retirement lottery. If you retire at the wrong time, you can lose the lottery. That's what the sequence of returns risk is. When you retire matters. So whether it's, how do I do this? The problem is when you're taking income out of it, right? If I'm going to pull from my investments to live off of, which you should, it's your savings, your life savings. It's meant for you to live off of. If you go to pull from it and the market's down, let's say the market lost 100,000, you pull 50,000 out. Now your portfolio is down $150,000. And that's a tough thing. As long as it recovers the next 2 or 3 years, you're okay. If it keeps losing and you keep pulling, it really starts to put you in a questionable position. It's important that when we look at how to prepare for up and down cycles of the market, we want to build income buffers so you aren't forced to sell stocks during a major downturn. Remember, we know the rules. What are you supposed to do when the market drops? I'm supposed to buy, right? I buy low and I sell high. When we get to retirement, the market starts dropping and people want to sell and get out. I don't want to lose more money. And that's fair. It's your life savings. And when someone tells you it's a paper loss, you want to punch them in the face. Say, there's no way it's a paper loss. This is my real life retirement savings. The market's dropping. We hedge, we protect. And yet what typically I see happen is people say, I don't need that much income then if it's a down market. They start putting off the fun things. That you don't get rid of your electric bill. Right. You don't get rid of your mortgage. You get rid of the trip you were going to take. You get rid of the gifting you want to do. You start pulling back on the stuff that really gives you life and purpose. That way the electric bill, like consumers or DTE still gets paid, right? That's not what we're supposed to be doing in retirement. We've worked and saved and delayed gratification long enough. We want to make sure our income is protected so that if the market drops, we don't have to fear that our income is going to hurt our portfolio long term. You can reduce unnecessary risk as you get towards retirement. So you're not just riding the entire S&P wave and just every single thing that happens in the market, every Truth Social or every tweet or every geopolitical thing or every time Congress can't decide if they're going to raise the debt ceiling or not. Like these are all things we can't control. And yet it affects us seemingly more than it affects the people who do have control over it, right? So when these things happen, how do we protect our family? How do we protect our income? This is where retirement planning becomes very different from simply managing investments. With big box firms, they're going to tell you to stay invested and ride out the market. But when you work with someone who's here, who sits across the table, who you're going to see at Meijer or we're going to see around town, you say, well, I know that the math says stay in, but what happens if the market falls 30% the year I retire? Can my income plan handle that? Local planning for real life is what we do. We build the plan around your retirement, not around market forecasts. And we make sure that because the reality is we don't know when the next recession is coming, whether it's 6 months away or 6 years away. I know that one will happen because it always happens. Markets will pull back, things will correct. That's okay. However, we don't have to know exactly when. The goal isn't to predict the next recession. It's to build a retirement where you don't have to fear it. We can build a plan that's protected and built for your family. So that way you take advantage when you should take advantage and you protect when you need to protect. For a life plan that is meant, a roadmap for your life that is built for you and your family, give us a call, 616-512-2127, or you can text us, 616-512-2127, or reach out at michigansretirementcoach.com.
Mike and his team, they're here to help guide you through this process, because at the end of the day, the goal is that you're going to retire one time, but Mike and his team, they're retiring every single day or helping folks do that. So they got a wealth of knowledge in their pocket that they're ready to share with you. michigansretirementcoach.com is our website where you can go to start the conversation with Mike and his team, or click on the links we got posted in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to Michigan's Retirement Coach with Mike Douglas. To learn more, visit michigansretirementcoach.com.
Michael Douglas is an investment advisor representative of Stewards Wealth Planning, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Michael Douglas is licensed in your state, please call 517-323-7526. Stewards Wealth Planning, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Michael B. Douglas, NPN number 9650939.